Act 2, Scene 3. It is night a few weeks later. Everyone is in bed. There is complete quiet. In the Van Dan's room, a match flares up for a moment and then is quickly put out. Mr. Van Dan, in bare feet, dressed in underwear and trousers, is dimly seen coming stealthily down the stairs and into the main room, where Mr. and Mrs. Frank and Margot are sleeping. He goes to the food safe and again lights a match. Then he cautiously opens the safe, taking out a half loaf of bread. As he closes the safe, it creaks. He stands rigid. Mrs. Frank sits up in bed. She sees him.
Otto! Otto, come quick!
What's the matter? What happened?
He steals food!
You, give me that.
Hootie, what is it?
You dirty thief, stealing food. You good for nothing?
Mr. Dussel, for God's sake, help me. Peter!
Peter comes over, trying with Mr. Frank to separate the two struggling men.
Let him go! Let go!
Dussel drops Mr. Van Dam, pushing him away. He shows him the end of a loaf of bread that he has taken from Van Dam.
You greedy, selfish.
Hootie, what is it?
All of Mrs. Frank's gentleness, her self-control is gone. She is outraged in a frenzy of indignation.
The bread! He was stealing the bread!
It was you, and all the time we thought it was the rats.
Mr. Van Dam, how could you?
I'm hungry.
We're all of us hungry. I see the children getting thinner and thinner. Your own son, Peter. I've heard him moan in his sleep. He's so hungry. And you come in the night and steal food that should go to them? To the children?
He needs more food than the rest of us. He's used to more. He's a big man.
And you're worse than he is. You're a mother, and yet you sacrifice your child to this man. This?
Edith!
Margot picks up the pink woolen stole, putting it over her mother's shoulders.
Don't think I haven't seen you, always saving the choicest bits for him. I've watched you day after day, and I've held my tongue. But not any longer, not after this. Now I want him to go. I want him to get out of here.
Edith!
Get out of here? What do you mean?
Just that. Take your things and get out.
You're speaking in anger. You cannot mean what you're saying.
I mean exactly that.
Mrs. Van Dam takes the cover from the Frank's bed, pulling it about her.
For 2 long years, we have lived here, side by side. We have respected each other's rights. We have managed to live in peace. Are we now going to throw it all away? I know this will never happen again. Will it, Mr. Van Dam?
No. He steals once, he'll steal again.
Mr. Van Dam, holding his stomach, starts for the bathroom. Anne puts her arms around him, helping him up the step.
Edith, please, let us be calm. We'll go to our rooms, and afterwards we'll sit down quietly and talk this out. We'll find some way.
No more talk. I want them to leave.
You put us out? On the streets?
There are other hiding places.
A cellar? A closet? Oh, I know. And we have no money left to pay for that.
I'll give you money out of my own pocket. I'll give it gladly.
Mr. Frank, you told Pootie you'd never forget what he'd done for you when you came to Amsterdam. You said you could never repay him, that you...
If my husband had any obligation to you, he's paid it over and over.
Edith, I've never seen you like this before. I don't know you.
I should have spoken out long ago.
You can't be nice to some people.
There would have been plenty for all of us if you hadn't come in here.
We don't need the Nazis to destroy us. We're destroying ourselves.
He sits down with his head in his hands. Mrs. Frank goes to Mrs. Van Dam.
Give this to me. She'll find you a place. Mother, you're not putting Peter out. Peter hasn't done anything. He'll stay, of course. When I say I must protect the children, I mean Peter too.
I'd have to go if Father goes.
Mr. Van Dam comes from the bathroom. Mrs. Van Dam hurries to him and takes him to the couch. Then she gets water from the sink to bathe his face.
He's no father to you, that man. He doesn't know what it is to be a father.
I wouldn't feel right. I couldn't stay.
Very well then, I'm sorry.
No, Peter, no! I don't care about the food. They can have mine. I don't want it. Only don't send them away. It'll be daylight soon. They'll be caught.
Please, Mother.
They're not going now. They'll stay here until Meat finds them a place. But one thing I insist on, he must never come down here again. He must never come to this room where the food is stored. We'll divide what we have, an equal share for each. You can cook it here and take it up to him.
Dussel brings the sack of potatoes back to the center table.
Oh, no, no. We haven't sunk so far that we're going to fight over a handful of rotten potatoes?
Mrs. Frank, Mr. Frank, Margot, Anne, Peter, Mrs. Van Daan, Mr. Van Daan, myself, Mrs. Frank.
The buzzer sounds in Meep's signal.
It's Meep!
At this hour?
It is trouble.
I beg you, don't let her see a thing like this.
Anne, Peter, Mrs. Van Daan, Mr. Van Daan, myself,
Stop it! Stop it!
Mr. Frank, Margot, Anne, Peter, Mrs. Van Daan, Mr. Van Daan, myself, Mrs. Frank.
You're keeping the big ones for yourself, all the big ones. Look at the size of that! And that!
Dussel continues on with his dividing. Peter, with his shirt and trousers on, comes from his room.
Stop it! Stop it!
We hear Meep's excited voice speaking to Mr. Frank below.
Mr. Frank, the most wonderful news. The invasion has begun.
Go on, tell them! Tell them!
Meep comes running up the steps ahead of Mr. Frank. She has a man's raincoat on over her nightclothes and a bunch of orange-colored flowers in her hand.
Did you hear that, everybody? Did you hear what I said? The invasion has begun. The invasion.
They all stare at Meep, unable to grasp what she is telling them. Peter is the first to recover his wits.
Where?
When? When, Meep?
It began early this morning.
As she talks on, the realization of what she has said begins to dawn on them. Everyone goes crazy. A wild demonstration takes place. Mrs. Frank hugs Mr. Van Daan.
Oh, Mr. Van Daan, did you hear that?
Dussel embraces Mrs. Van Daan. Peter grabs a frying pan and parades around the room, beating on it, singing the Dutch national anthem. Anne and Margot follow him, singing, weaving in and out among the excited grown-ups. Margot breaks away to take the flowers from Meep and distribute them to everyone. While this pandemonium is going on, Mrs. Frank tries to make herself heard above the excitement.
How do you know? The radio, the BBC. They said they landed on the coast of Normandy.
The British?
British, Americans, French, Dutch, Poles, Norwegians, all of them. More than 4,000 ships. Churchill spoke and General Eisenhower. D-Day, they call it.
Thank God it's come!
At last!
I'm going to tell Mr. Caller. This will be better than any blood transfusion.
What part of Normandy did they land? Did they say?
Normandy, that's all I know now. I'll be up the minute I hear some more.
What did I tell you? What did I tell you?
Mr. Frank indicates that he has forgotten to bolt the door after Meep. He hurries down the steps. Mr. Van Daan, sitting on the couch, suddenly breaks into a convulsive sob. Everybody looks at him, bewildered.
Pootie, Pootie, what is it? What happened?
Please, I'm so ashamed.
Oh, for God's sake.
Don't, Pootie. It doesn't matter now.
Didn't you hear what Meep said? The invasion has come! We're going to be liberated! This is a time to celebrate.
To steal bread from children.
We've all done things we're ashamed of.
Look at me, the way I've treated Mother, so mean and horrid to her.
No, Hanukkah, no.
Oh, Mother, I was awful. Not like me. No one is as bad as me.
Stop it now. Let's be happy.
Here! Hebrew to life!
Mr. Van Daan takes the cognac. They all watch him. He gives them a feeble smile. Anne puts her fingers in a V for victory sign. As Van Daan gives an answering V sign, they are startled to hear a loud sob from behind them. It is Mrs. Frank, stricken with remorse. She is sitting on the other side of the room.
When I think of the terrible things I said,
No, you were right.
that I should speak that way to you, our friends, our guests.
Stop it. You're spoiling the whole invasion.
As they are comforting her, the lights dim out, the curtain falls.
We're all in much better spirits these days. There's still excellent news of the invasion. The best part about it is that I have a feeling that friends are coming. Who knows? Maybe I'll be back in school by fall. Haha, the joke is on us. The warehouse man doesn't know a thing, and we are paying him all that money. Wednesday, the 2nd of July, 1944. The invasion seems temporarily to be bogged down. Mr. Crawler has to have an operation, which looks bad. The Gestapo have found the radio that was stolen. Mr. Dussel says they'll trace it back and back to the thief, and then it's just a matter of time till they get to us. Everyone is low. Even poor Pym can't raise their spirits. I have often been downcast myself, but never in despair. I can shake off everything if I write. But, and that is the great question, will I ever be able to write well? I want to so much. I want to go on living even after my death. Another birthday has gone by, so now I am 15. Already I know what I want. I have a goal, an opinion.
As this is being said, the curtains rise on the scene, the lights dim on, and Anne's voice fades out.